I'm super excited. We'll get started this morning. I am absolutely thrilled to have Wendy Brookhouse from Black Star Wealth on this morning, talking about family business and having a successful, profitable family business. We've known each other for a few years now, so great to have her on. And Wendy is part of my dream team, which is all about helping family-owned businesses with harmony, prosperity, and freedom. So super excited to have her on for our conversation this morning. So welcome, Wendy. I'm going to start off with asking you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story of origin for your business.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Anthea. And I'm so delighted to be here to talk about this super important subject. My original undergrad degree was in finance. And so I then promptly went out and did customer service, marketing, and sales. So the connection wasn't there. And then I ended up doing my MBA, and started a consulting business where I did marketing plans, business plans, some implementations, things of that nature. I picked up a client who was in the financial services industry. And what I realized was, wow, I think I can do it better than them. And there's this big disconnect also where the value of financial services traditionally is kind of hidden, or how you pay is a little bit less than obvious. Whereas when I'm doing a marketing plan and I ask you to write a check, you immediately are assessing the value of that. So it was a blended piece there. And what I found was that the way I approached consulting and the way I approached financial planning kind of were the same. We have an issue, some challenges that we're trying to deal with. There's some options for dealing with that. They need to be evaluated, and then we need to choose and implement the correct one. One of the things I also did as a consultant that I think was a bit different is I always focused not only on the what, but the how. I always could not understand when someone got a consulting report that said, yes, and based on all of this, you should export to the US. Thank you. Goodbye. And it's like, okay, now how do they do that? Because that's the excellent next question. So is that not part of the engagement? So that really informed the way I did things. The second thing I think that made a big difference for how I approach my business and how I approach working with clients is that I came into the industry as an independent right from the get-go. So that was a blessing and a curse. The curse part is the first 2 to 3 years when you realize, oh man, I feel like I'm fighting my way out of a paper bag because I really am not sure what I'm doing. But at the same time, I also realized that, again, it comes back to if I have the right questions and I know where the answers are, I don't need to know all the answers. So that was kind of also informed me on that side. It also allowed me to do things differently because there was no one telling me this is the way it's done. So I felt like I was able to actually fashion solutions and methodologies that were rooted in what the clients really needed, not to sell a product, not to sell this or that thing overall. It was really about how do I get the client from point A to point B? I always felt the plan was the most important part and that product sales were a byproduct of that. It was more about, I'm not going to lead with, I need to sell a product. I'm going to lead with, you need a plan. And what does that plan need to be implemented to make it true? And so that's been my approach all along. So now, which I find really hard to believe, is I've been in this industry now for almost 16 years. And I love it because every client is a little different. I look at everybody as having their dream is a picture, or their vision, Anthea, is a picture, and it's on a puzzle, and all the pieces that I need to get together to help them get to there are different. So that's what makes it more fun, because everyone's picture is different, and then the pieces I need to assemble to get them there to that vision is different. So it allows for creativity and fun and being very open to how things happen.
Awesome. So you just used one of my favorite words, which was vision.
Yes.
So, so what does the vision, when it comes to your business, what does the vision look like for you in your business?
I have, if we were to look at a BHAG or a big, hairy, audacious goal, I have to say I love the concept. It took me years to come up with it, but it was really, I would like to change 1,000,000 lives through financial confidence. What I know is when people are financially confident, it changes how they show up at work, changes how they show up with their family, it changes all these things. And it reduces some of those crazy voices in our heads that are saying you should do this, so-and-so's doing that, why aren't you, FOMO, all those things. You can quiet it down because you have a plan and you know how you're going to execute it, all the contingencies, you have all those things sorted. It can really change how you appear in your life. And so that's where I think my ultimate vision is to do that. And I've been really focusing now on business owners and family business owners because their impact, I change their life, their ripple impact can be quite extensive. And so that's why I like dealing with them. Plus my toolbox is bigger for them. So I like that too.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So with all of that said, then, when we're talking about these family business owners and your BHAG and your goal, and it comes to your Wendy wisdom,
Yes.
what would 3 tips be for these family business owners?
Number 1, begin with yourself. So what I mean by that is do the work to, number 1, get your plans in place and understand what your ideal personal life is, how you're funding that, what the goal is. You might want to say, Anthea, we'll go back to vision, but having a vision for all of that and a plan for how you're going to get there. Also part of knowing yourself is kind of understanding your own money story. Okay, so we all have patterns. We all have things that our subconscious is telling us around money that can influence the decisions and actions we take on a day-to-day basis. I think about, an entrepreneur who grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and maybe there was, at the beginning of any business, typically there's volatility around cash flow, and that can actually be presented at the dinner table, whether we're realizing it or not. And so that can affect how your kids feel about a lot of things, but it affected you on how you felt a lot of things if that happened to you. If you're unaware of these things, because they're running in your subconscious, I feel like it's like a little bit like the operating system of our computer. I really have no idea how this all came together. It just does. And so sometimes we don't know why we make the decisions we do because we just do. So if we can do the work, I feel like half the work is surfacing it, bringing it up from the subconscious to the conscious level. And then that at least allows you to deal with it and you're aware of it. And maybe you choose to deal with it right away, or at least because all the messaging going on in there, some of it still has good aspects of it, and some of it's not serving you anymore. But if you're not even aware of it, how do you make sure that you're doing the things that you're being the way you want to be? So that's the know yourself side of things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I really relate to that and what you're just saying around that piece. My experience growing up in a family business where, it was an insurance business, and, my dad started in the basement of our house, and I was 6 years old at the time, and it was always commission, right? Commission sales. So we didn't know as, kids, as a family, one week to the next, it was like, I always talk about riding these waves, right? Because it was feast or famine. One week would be, dad would take us to the pop shop on the weekend and buy us pop because he had some great, sales that week. The commission, the revenues were coming in. And then the next week it would be like, oh dear, like no sales made that week, right? So I've gone through that process, especially in recent years, of kind of examining that for myself and looking at okay, I came from that sort of volatility up and down. And so how am I framing that for myself moving forward, and basically coming to the conclusion that I have the confidence in myself that I don't need to worry about, the ups and downs and riding these waves anymore, because I know at the end of the day, as long as I have my health, right, I can generate what's necessary in terms of that piece. So, but so important. And I don't know that a lot of people actually kind of do that work and really get beneath that, right?
It's not easy work, right? And it's so it's easy to prioritize other urgent things because this falls into the important but not necessarily urgent until it is urgent category. So I like to try and get things up, and the sooner we can methodically deal with these things, the less likely they're actually going to sabotage us or cause us pain down the road if we deal with them.
Awesome.
Number
Okay.
Number two. Number two. Assemble a top-notch team of professionals. Okay, so when I think of the work you're doing, Anthea, this is so important. I think almost all business owners should have some type of a coach, someone who's helping them understand and put things together. When you think about being an entrepreneur, that phrase, it's lonely at the top, is very, very true. And sometimes we have to, as business owners, put out an image to our employees and our clients and everything that everything is just hunky-dory. So it's really good if you have someone exactly, we have someone in the behind the scenes can go, there, it'll be okay, you can do this, and give you some concrete ways to get out, to help you advance where you want to advance, realize your vision. And also, I think, Anthea, sometimes if we are too in the zone and we're too in our own business, I sometimes think, I look at the difference between, are you hugging a tree or looking at the forest? And a business coach can take us up to look at the forest, right? And I also think that sometimes when we're hugging trees, we can sometimes become a little smaller than we need to be, in the sense that we're not thinking big enough. And I think of some of the groups I belong to, sometimes it's just so I'm around other people thinking big, so I keep thinking big. And I think it's important because, I found, especially during the pandemic where I didn't have a business coach for about a year, I really retreated into myself a little bit. And so this helped me just being around other entrepreneurs and other things. So that was important. Business coach, important. Second thing is making sure you have a financial planner, advisor on your team who is experienced with business owners. Okay, someone who's been in the trenches. And I think that this is a little self-certain, but I think that the difference between someone who runs a practice and runs a business can change the mindset and how they approach talking to you as well. So that's very important. And then, of course, accountants and lawyers. So sometimes we think of these folks as, evil people we never want to pay, but the right level, the right sophistication level, and having them at the table when it's important, which is more than we probably want to pay them. But at the end of the day, when we get into all transition and succession planning, it can save you a fortune. And they will more than pay for themselves by having them at the table to make correct decisions. Otherwise, I feel like just invite CRA into your bank account, because if you don't do it right, or you don't do these kinds of planning pieces that take years to put in place appropriately, you're inviting CRA to ask for a big check. And I'm not saying that this is tax avoidance, because it's not. It's just proper planning to make sure things are done correctly. And so I look at that. And when it comes to you're an accountant, I feel like there's different levels there too. So I look at, are you dealing with a transactional accountant? You send them the stuff, they do your tax returns, they send them back. Maybe they talk to you for 5 minutes, versus a strategy accountant. And I came to a point, there comes a point where you have to transition to a strategy accountant, because they're the ones that can be way more aware of options and things, and they're going to work super well with your financial planner because they know stuff you don't know. And if you aren't open to having those folks at the table, you may be missing out on opportunities. So that's my number 2, is assemble a top-notch team.
Yeah, love it. And that resonates. Like, Douglas is on the call with us today. He's my spousepreneur. And when we were in that family business together, so we bought that business from my parents, but at the beginning, like, it was the two of us, And we were just trying to do so much on our own, and we didn't really have that team around us. And, in some parts of it, even till the point when, we sold it in October 2020, there's still, as I look back now, I still see there were some opportunities to leverage team more within that business. So yeah, so important to really have that advisory team around you in
Yeah.
your business, because man, it cost us a lot of money and time and effort. Some of this stuff where it was the two of us and we were trying to figure this out, and and even like HR, some of that, because we had a team, and we, there was so much we didn't know. And yeah, had we had a couple more advisors in place, it probably would have made a really big difference in terms of our progress, faster progress and scalability. So yeah.
There's a really good book, Anthea, I think that we both have read right out. It's called Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And what I found there, it was so good for my mindset, is that I don't necessarily need to know every how, or how much time am I spending on a how, when I could actually just hire a who that takes care of it lickety split because they've done it 5 million times. I think we're all at some point guilty of trying to do everything ourselves, but it's recognizing that maybe we should bring in the talent that's done it a lot of times can help. Oh, we have a question. Douglas, go.
I was actually more in addition, because you're talking about high level team, but even just with a support partner team, because I know you have several in your office.
Yes.
Because those things free us up to get the stuff done that we need our level. And then, I mean, it's one of those first things every salesperson is taught. Most don't ever do it. Go out and hire someone to do the $30 work so you can do the $300 work. People choke on spending the 30 grand a year or whatever, but they could easily make an extra 100.
Yeah.
Part of it. And that gets that off your shoulders, allowing you to then spend time with your high level team and too.
Yeah, because honestly, let's be honest, we're smart people. We could do it all, or make some sort of attempt at it. But what does it do? It slows us down, because we're trying to do it all and be everything, versus what are we super good at? How do we stay in that lane so that we can have the most maximum impact on our business and our lives, right? So my third thing is more directed about the transition and preparing your children and thinking about those things, because there is a difference between parenting and business owners, and understanding what role are you at? Are you assuming when you're having the conversations with your children, and recognizing that how can you make that the passing of the business is not necessarily a burden, but rather an opportunity and something that they can really put their hands into and have a chance to mold and achieve the goals that they have that could be different than what your goals are from a family unit. Because I mean, obviously every generation has different passions and different things like that. And so I think it even goes down to the basics, Cynthia, around how are your kids getting an allowance, and can you put it based on the results versus the inputs, right? Because if we look at us as entrepreneurs, we get paid on results, not on the fact we spent 5 hours on something. So how can we start that really, really early, that thought process? And so, can you make a list of chores and put a value to them, and then they get to choose what their size of allowance is by what chores they choose to do. Right? So there's some things you can do there. How do you start introducing them to the business? And I mean, I've had conversations with experts that say, start as early as 7 or 8. Take them in on a Saturday for a couple hours. Start talking to them about what you're doing and why you do it, and give them some things that they can do to help contribute, so they start to feel part of that business. And also send them away for at least 5 years before they work in the business full time. Make them go work somewhere else. Learn how good they have it, so that when they come back, they've learned some new skills, new ways of doing things, are used to managing, working with different people and different personalities and different skill sets. And so it's a, kind of, I guess the term is cutting their teeth somewhere else, if you will. So
right.
And goal is to have them come back. And the other thing I think about too is, another book I read was, how can you expect them to want to take them over the family business if you go home at night, sit at the dinner table and complain about your business the entire time?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little compartmentalization and a little intentionality that needs to be brought to bear on that stuff so that you can raise kids that want to play in your business if that's where they want to do it, right? And being aware that's why I said start with you first, because your underlying money story, whether you realize it or not, is coming out in offhand remarks and things you may be saying, and could be influencing your kids as well. So if you know what your money story is, you can be a little bit more intentional about helping shape your children's money story, which can have big effects and profound ripple effects on the business.
Yeah, so true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you got me reflecting here and, thinking again, my story around, in the family business. And, I was it's a bit of a joke in the sense that I came into our family business as soon as I took typing in grade 9. My dad said, hey, I've got some work for you. So, get in here and so it was great because it was a small, it was a basement in the lower level of our house. So I got to work very closely with him and I got to hear, him selling and, so he picked up a lot of skills and knowledge along the way. And I saw the opportunity, and that's why I said I wanted to, get involved with it. But, I didn't do the 5-year thing you just talked about.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
No, I was in it from 13 on until, last year. So, I mean, I did some other kind of part-time stuff during high school and stuff like bartending and, waitressing, stuff like that. But I didn't actually have kind of that, go somewhere else, learn some other skills and then reassess and come back into the business. Like I was just in there, so that could have really been, insightful and maybe shifted some things in my awareness. Who knows, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, all the thing around this, like I think back to number 1, know yourself and having a vision. A family business is about generating wealth for a number of generations potentially, and understanding what that wealth means to people. I talk a lot about wealth is more than just money. It's about your family, it's about your health, it's about a whole bunch of things. But a lot of it can be fueled by money. So if you can sort that sucker out and set it up, then you can have a more wealthy life on all the other planes as well. And it's sometimes not about how much is in the bank account, but how you use it and how you've got yourself set up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I use the term prosperity and what does the prosperity look like? So as you said, prosperity around health and freedom of time, freedom of relationships. And as you said, the money can leverage those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I may have a permission to do a little rant.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So one of the things, I have developed a new program called the Total Wealth Accelerator. And I feel like one of the things that as a business owner, number 1, we get way more fees, way more everything else. I feel it's almost like if we put the word business owner or wedding in front of something, it's an automatic upcharge on no matter what we're doing. Drives me nuts. And number 2 is I feel like when we look at the way the things are currently set up, a lot of times to get the right sophisticated level of financial planner or financial whatever, they want you to have a certain number of investable assets because that's how they get paid. And so that's been my rant is accessibility as well. And so I guess that's why I've set things up almost as a fee for service, because then it's accessible. Versus I'm going to work on my own for a long time before I can get the level of help I need. So it's the way the systems are set up right now, it's kind of like against everyone who isn't really big already.
Right.
Pricing for things, everything. So I think that it's important to realize that investing in your team of advisors and your team, to Doug's point, is very, very important to make things work out, and that you will get a return on that investment.
Yeah, so true. So true. Okay, so tell us a little bit more. Total Wealth Accelerator. What's that all about?
I have it's a combination of very customized planning and then also building a community and curriculum and education. So what a lot of business owners sometimes fail to recognize is that one of their biggest assets is actually their business. And if whether they're going to pass it down and get a check from their kids, or they're going to go to market and get a check from someone else, they still need to make their business the shiniest, most attractive apple on the block. And by making the things that they can do to make their business more sellable, if you will, actually means that their business is running more smoothly. It can potentially be running without them if necessary. So there's all kinds of work you can be doing to build your structure in your business and make it more sellable, which is just means it's working more efficiently. And so there's going to be education around that. Education around financial products that are accessible to business owners and corporate owners that aren't available to sole proprietors or others. You know, there's a whole list of things like that that can be deployed at different times, but sometimes you just need to do the setup to get there. And they don't make sense for everybody. So understanding them and what your goals are and how you're going to put them all into place is really important. So we start out with understanding personal life and what does it take to fund the ideal life. And then we work our way into the business and say, here's what the business needs to do. We're working on a number of key metrics. We want to understand shock-proof numbers so that if something happens to the business owner, health, or something happens economically with the world, that there's access, there's either reserves of cash, access to cash, or maybe it's something that could have been covered by insurance. So these are the things that we want to cover off in the shock proof. And my big thing is understanding what is your power number? And this is the number of understanding, when do I get to go to work because I love it, not because I have to. And so I think that understanding that goal and being deliberate about getting there can make a big deal. And so that's what we're building out as a structure to help business owners recognize what that number is, and then every quarter be doing something towards that. So I'm calling it working. We all talk about working on your business. Well, let's work on your wealth for a couple hours every quarter.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And you have a free tool to help people with an assessment.
Yeah, there's a diagnostic tool. We have it at totalwealthscore.com. And it's really around mindset, systems, and actions that you already have in place to see where you are at for building the foundations towards going to work for wealth, right? And from there, we invite people to a wealth roundtable, an entrepreneurs roundtable, where we really dig into some of those things, have some great conversations, and hopefully people leave inspired to make action on that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've done the score and I did the roundtable, and I really thought this better awareness, deeper awareness, and the tool was awesome. And that conversation was really helpful. Again, kind of getting out of that whole entrepreneurial loneliness that we sometimes get into, even as family business owners, right? We kind of get out of our head, and we have an opportunity to have a conversation with some other people. So that was really, really valuable. So awesome. So those are 3 great tips. Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up. We have 5 minutes left. So anybody have any questions or comments or feedback from our guests today on the call for Wendy?
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. It's similar. We have a very similar story from our journey through this whole financial industry. I found it broken and was almost ready to leave it. And it's funny how we adapt to, and I believe the planning first is very important. Anthea, the whole business background, and my dad and his partner building the business, growing the business, and then selling it, leave me going, okay, what do I do now? And that's how I got into this industry, because I looked at someday, well, there's going to be some money there from the sale of their business. I should know about investing. I should know about all this stuff. And, but it was never really taught throughout the whole thing. It was just the peanut butter and jam sandwiches in the early days of my dad's business was, priceless. My mom actually went into chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia from the stress, especially during the early 80s. I don't know if you would know that era, but high interest rates,
Mhm.
wondering whether the next paycheck was coming from our customers. It just was crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks for sharing though. It's I love what you're doing. That's exactly what we're doing, and letting people know options. It's really it's awesome. Yeah. Good job.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. All right. Any other questions today? No. So to wrap up, then the outcome for people, for family business owners, if they are feeling like they are stuck and they're losing the faith and they really need to get some more perspective around the wealth and the family business, I would definitely say it's worth downloading this tool, having a conversation with Wendy. Also, feel free to reach out to me as well. We are both super passionate, and I think I forgot to mention that, Wendy, you are also a family business owner yourself, so
Yes.
you're living it, you're living the dream. But yeah, and the ups and downs and the waves and everything else, right? So yeah, we are super passionate about family businesses and helping us all to succeed together. So thank you so much for being on this conversation with us today, Wendy. Really appreciate it. And our guests as well. Been wonderful to have you all here. And yeah, thanks again, and have a terrific rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You as well.
It's Tuesday, everyone. Have a great, thanks.